10 years ago, a masterpiece was released. This game right here, The Last of Us for the Sony PlayStation 3. I remember when this game first got announced, it had really piqued my interest as I was a fan of zombie apocalyptic games such as COD Zombies, The Walking Dead by Telltale, and a little bit of Dead Rising. But when it finally came to release, I was not allowed to get the game because there was a gay pornography reference in it, and my mother told me that was not appropriate for me. But thankfully, I had a friend who, close to a year later after the game had come out, allowed me to play the intro section at his house and informed me that the gay pornography reference was nothing more than a magazine of a dude in his underwear that's barely on screen and quickly gets thrown out the window. With this new information, I presented it to my mother and she agreed to let me get the game, and on March 2nd, I finally got to embark on my journey of The Last of Us. So I want to take a little bit of time to just share what makes this game so special to me, and going back, recalling my very first playthrough of this game. So, when I played it at my friend's house, I remember being confused when we first take control of Sarah. And I'm like, okay, well, where's Ellie? Because it's Ellie and Joel who were on the cover, and I'm playing as Sarah. Okay, Sarah's Joel's daughter. I thought Ellie was going to be Joel's daughter. I had no idea what was going on. But I remember as soon as we get into that truck and into the car crash and we take control of Joel, feeling the adrenaline pumping and wanting to run. And my friend told me to keep on moving. I know when you get to the ambulance and you see one of the paramedics rolling out, I was like, oh, do I go help this guy? And he's like, nope, he's a zombie. And told me to keep running and not to look back or I will die. That leads to probably one of the hardest hitting cutscenes as we finally make it up the hill and we're met with a soldier who points their gun at us and proceeds to fire and kills Sarah, and Tommy's just barely too late. But hearing Sarah's dying voice section, man, it just hits hard. And I have played this game close to 20 plus times, and I'd argue that 90% of the time I can still get teary-eyed watching that scene, because all that brief interaction that you did have of playing Sarah and seeing her and Joel interact with each other, for her to be taken out in the first 20 to 25 minutes of gameplay, it's intense. And after that moment, I knew that the game was going to be amazing, and I could not even begin to imagine what else was to come next. So then we jump 20 years into the future, and I get to meet Tess, and I really enjoy Joel and Tess's interactions and dialogue, their chemistry between each other. And we learn that they're smugglers, and we're chasing after this man named Robert, and I think Robert's a great kind of first bad guy as you're trying to hunt him down for screwing Joel and Tess over. But once we finally catch up to him and see that he's in debt to the Fireflies, and that's who he sold our guns to, we're introduced to Marlene, who is another pretty interesting character, and asks Joel and Tess to smuggle something for her. And I'm like curious, I'm like, alright, what are we gonna smuggle? I would have never guessed that it would be my favorite character, Ellie. The characters in The Last of Us are just done so well. But now that we have Ellie and we're smuggling her, I was a bit turned off a little bit at first because Joel was so cold and mean towards Ellie, and I was like, what? Ellie looks cool. I want to be nice to her. But Joel, being the grumpy old man, and rightfully so, it's the apocalypse. You got to be hard, and he's lost a daughter, so it makes sense. But I know my 14-year-old mind didn't fully comprehend that when I first played through it. I was just a little bit annoyed with Joel and how he was treating Ellie. But I did enjoy some of the interactions we got to have, and then the twist, which I feel like it's not as big of a twist anymore, but back in 2013, with all the media that I had consumed, when you find out that Ellie's infected, I was like, whoa, what? And then she claims she's immune. I'm like, oh, okay, this is why we're smuggling her. That's really interesting. But as we get to the capital and find out that the Fireflies that were supposed to drop her off are dead, and that Tess is now bitten and infected, and she claims that it's real because her bite's way worse than Ellie's, I remember just thinking, oh my goodness, this game, it kept me encapsulated and really made me invested in the story. So now it's just me and Ellie, and you see that Joel is still kind of being a dick towards Ellie, and I wasn't the biggest fan of that, but we eventually make it to Billstown, and I enjoy the interactions that happen here. Ellie trying to learn how to whistle, and Joel talking to her. Then you get to go into these other little sections of Billstown where Ellie just brings up how it's so sad how there's all these music sitting around here for no one to listen to. There's an arcade game, and she really hopes that she gets to play a video game, and that she has this old friend who knew everything about it. It's the small things like this, just the dialogue that happens as you're walking through the game, that makes it feel very natural and makes you very immersed in the game. So that's one thing that I have to praise it on, is just the dialogue that happens as you're exploring these pretty big, for the time, environments. And I will point out, when I have looked at the remake, that's how it looked back in my mind. That's how I remembered the game when I first played through it. And then whenever I go back and look, I'm like, wow, there really wasn't as much detail. But I'm telling you, back in 2013, 2014, when I was playing in it, absolutely thought it was stunning and breathtaking. Then we finally get to meet up with Bill, and Bill's another character that I really enjoy, and I enjoy the interactions that him and Ellie get to have together. They're funny, and I really wish we could have gotten some more of Bill in the games, or even just seen him in the sequel, but sadly I don't think we'll ever see any more of Bill. But then that leads to a part that I appreciate, where Joel ends up telling Ellie that she's doing a good job after they find a truck, and you kind of see him starting to soften up a little bit, and I really appreciate that, because in the previous zombie game that I had played, The Walking Dead, Lee and Clementine, they're just like buddy from the start. But I think Ellie and Joel's slow building of their relationship makes it that much better. So then we make it to Pittsburgh, and I know going through that hotel, another really beautiful scene. The scenery in these games is just always amazing. But once we make it to that elevator shaft and Joel falls down the elevator shaft, that is the very first time that I have ever felt like legitimately terrified playing a game, and it's dark. And I know when I went to go turn on that generator and I got grabbed by that stalker for the very first time, oh, it made my heart jump, and I hated it. I didn't want to continue playing that point because I was just a scared little boy, but I wanted to make it back to Ellie, so I pushed through, then eventually get saved by Ellie, and I'm like, oh yeah, hell yeah, Ellie, thank you. But then I get pissed at Joel, because Joel's reaction's not that. He criticizes Ellie for saving him, and I just Oh, I was looking for all the optional dialogues to try to apologize to Ellie because I did not like the way that Joel was treating her. But to my unfortunate, once I found the optional dialogue with the little photo backdrop, there's 2 sections to that. So I engaged the first one, but then I was walking around just looking for supplies, and I ended the second one, and Joel says something along the lines of, "Not right now, Ellie," as Ellie's trying to say something. She's like, "Huh, whatever, Joel." And I was like, "No, Ellie, I want to listen to you. I'm so sorry." Because I know she also tries to talk to you, jumping back to Bill's town. She wants to bring up Tessa's death a little bit with you, so I always wanted to give Ellie the options to talk about the things that were bothering her. But going back to the Pittsburgh section, I'm thankful it didn't take too long until we got to the section where Joel teaches Ellie how to use a hunting rifle and to cover him, and ends up apologizing for what she did, or how he responded to her saving his life, and then finally trust her to have a gun of her own. So that's another really nice growing moment between our 2 lovely main characters. Then we're introduced to Henry and Sam, another set of characters that I really enjoyed having around even after they did abandon us. I absolutely enjoy the conversations that Henry and Joel get to have, and hearing about Henry's old memories of barbecues when he was young before the outbreak happened, and Joel getting to explain what an ice cream truck is to Henry and Sam, or not Henry and Sam, to Ellie and Sam. It's again just the small dialogues that happen outside of cutscenes that really drive this game home to me. Ellie and Sam's interactions are also some of my favorite, and they're really sweet and wholesome. They had a wonderful friendship, and I'm sad that it got cut, because after Sam's bitten and turns and tackles Ellie, then Henry has to shoot his own brother and then takes his own life. That was another scene that really hit me hard, because again, at that young age, I hadn't really consumed much media where somebody had to kill their own family member and then ends up committing suicide. So that was another scene that really impacted. But then that leads me to a section that will lead to my favorite cutscene, where we get to go try to find Tommy, and we actually stumble upon his dam and all the people that he's kind of, his little survivor group that he's gathered together, and they're running this little hydro dam. And I remember when Tommy shares that he had gone back to Texas, and he found this photo of Sarah and offers it to Joel, and Joel refuses it. I was like, dang it, Joel, why didn't you take it? I want you to have that. So my heartstrings are constantly being pulled while playing this game. But after the dam gets invaded by bandits and you take them out, Ellie has overheard that you don't plan to take her anymore and that you want Tommy to take her to the Fireflies. So she runs off, and then you have to track down Ellie, and you find her at this old abandoned ranch house. And as you walk upstairs and enter the room, one of my favorite cutscenes of all time plays. And you just see Ellie sitting there reading an old girl's diary saying, "Is this really all that you had to worry about? Boys, movies, which shirt goes with which skirt? It's bizarre." And then Joel says, "Come on, we're going." And Ellie's like, "And if I say no?" Then Joel says, "Do you have any idea what your life means? Because what you did is pretty goddamn stupid." And then Ellie's like, "Well, I guess we're both disappointed." And you keep on hearing them go back. I won't quote the entire scene, but when it ends with Ellie sharing that everyone she has cared for has either died or left her, everyone except for Joel, and that sending her off with someone else would just make her more scared. The acting is just on point. And then Joel sharing that he's not her dad and that she's not his daughter just makes you frustrated with Joel, because I'm very attached to Ellie. I'm attached to Joel as well, but Ellie is my favorite character. So then after the ranch house gets attacked by bandits and you take them out, I'm very glad that Joel changes his mind and we get to take Ellie to the Fireflies base on our own, and we make it to the university, which again, another breathtaking scenery. I enjoy going through the dorm rooms and seeing all the decorations that people have, especially after I have completed college now myself, and just knowing the way that people decorated their dorm rooms. It's just, it's fun. And I remember when Joel gets attacked and he gets impaled, thinking that, oh no, Joel is going to die, because I had done well avoiding all spoilers for this game before I played it, besides a YouTube thumbnail where somebody put, no, Joel's dead, or Joel's death, and I'm like, dang it. I was hoping that was clickbait, and thankfully it was, but I know at that section I was like, dang, dude, Joel's dead. And then we go to the winter section and we're playing as Ellie, and I really did enjoy hunting the deer, but after you meet up with David and you're fighting the infected, I felt weaker. I learned that I took all of Joel's little upgrades that I had accumulated over the course of my playthrough for granted, and now I'm playing as Ellie, and I'm like, man, yeah, we really do protect Ellie, but Ellie is a badass of her own, and she's able to fend for herself, but you definitely have that sense of losing power. So then you find out that David's a creep, and you make it back, and you make sure that Joel's alive, or you find out Joel's alive, and you take care of him even more than Ellie has already been doing. So then you start getting hunted by David's men as Ellie, and you lead them away from Joel. And you're eventually captured by David and locked up in a cell. Then Joel wakes up, and you're like, oh yeah, no, let's go rescue Ellie. And you run into some of David's men, and you capture them, and you torture them. And that scene, that cutscene, ooh, it's another one of my favorites, but it really just goes to show how brutal Joel can be. But again, I care about Ellie, so I'm like, Joel, you do what you gotta do. We are gonna go save that little girl. But then cutting back to Ellie, we get another pretty great scene where David's being a real creep and trying to convince Ellie to join him. Then Ellie gets to break his finger, and he's like, alright, Ellie, you're gonna be dinner, because I guess I forgot to mention, she gets to wake up and sees them cutting up humans, and is like, okay, they're cannibals. But we then see Ellie get taken out of her cage and thrown up on the chopping board, but she bites David and yells on how she's infected and that he is now too, and they roll up her sleeve and see it, and Ellie makes her get away. And at that section when you're playing as Ellie, you feel even weaker because you have nothing but your trusty pocket knife from your mother, and you're just being hunted, and you eventually make it to a cabin that David lights on fire, and you have to fight David. And this is the second part of the game where I would say I felt a little bit of fear, or it was more tense fighting David as Ellie, but I thought we had taken him down, and I was ready to resume control of Joel to try to find Ellie. And as I continue making my way with Joel to where Ellie's at, we cut back to the scene with Ellie and David on the ground, but David's not dead, and he crawls on top of Ellie, but Ellie, as she's struggling, is able to grab David's machete and then just begins chopping the heck out of him. Another really brutal scene, but another one of my favorite scenes. And then Joel runs in and starts calming Ellie down. It's really sweet, and you feel for Ellie, but just seeing Joel hold her, embracing her, comforting her, telling her it's gonna be alright is really touching. So then we cut forward a little bit in time, and we're kind of on this like little abandoned highway intersection leading to some underpasses. But at this point in the game, Ellie is now very distant and cold, and Joel is living in high spirits. So it's kind of interesting seeing how they've swapped personalities from the start of the game to almost the end of the game. But this leads to my second favorite scene, could arguably be my favorite scene, the giraffe scene as seen by my t-shirt and the background that you get to look at right here. I absolutely love this scene as you get to hear Ellie's voice brighten up as she helps you, or you help her boost up to knock a ladder down, and then she just drops the ladders and help you set it up, and you have to set it up, and she's like, hurry Joel, hurry, come on, come see. And then you see the silhouette of the giraffe walking, and then you finally see it munching on some leaves, and you get to go up and pet it, and oh, that scene is just so iconic. It's done so well. And then you see it walk off, you get to follow it, and then where the background actually is, you get to just lean over there. The music is so fitting, complements the scene so well. It's so calming as you see the giraffes just walking, Ellie and Joel sharing a little bit of dialogue, and the game just lets you sit there and take it in for a bit. I know I probably sat there for a good 3 to 5 minutes just taking it in, being at peace, and kind of realizing that my journey was almost over. You get to some other little intense scenes of Ellie jumping into the water to try to save Joel, but Ellie can't swim, and her drowning, and then the fireflies find you and knock you out, and then you wake up in the hospital. And I know at this section, after I find out that Ellie is to die in order for them to attempt to make a vaccine, I'm over here like, no way, I'm way too attached to Ellie. Joel, kill all the people you need to kill, and I did not have a problem taking out any of the guards. I was there to save Ellie. But I know once I'm into the operating room and you bust in and killing surgeons, you swoop Ellie up and you carry her out, and I'm booking it. I'm like, we are getting out of here, Ellie. Then you're hit with that cutscene where Marlene tells you that you can still do the right thing and that she won't feel a thing. And then it cuts to Joel in the car. I was like, no, we did not just go through all of that just for Ellie to die. But, thankfully she didn't, and Joel is the selfish man that he is, because we killed Marlene and we took Ellie back to Jackson, and Ellie asks what happens, and you see Joel lie to her, and you're kind of wondering like, man, is that what you do? But I know during my playthrough, I was like, yes, no, I want Ellie to be safe. I really care about these characters. And then you get back to Jackson, and you're playing as Ellie at this point, and you make a short little hike with Joel. And then she asks him once again, swear to me everything you said about the Fireflies is true. And Joel swears, and then you cut to credits, and my favorite track off of the soundtrack plays, The Path of New Beginning, and I just get chills thinking about that song. It is my favorite off the original soundtrack, and I do just have to compliment the soundtrack and the sound design for this game because it complements it so well. I have the vinyl album back there, but yeah, the characters are amazing, and I know just at the credits I sat through them and I was just thinking, man, this is one of the greatest games I have ever played. And to this day, it is a game that I still enjoy playing through. I of course played it on the original PS3. I have it the digital remastered version, and then I bought the Firefly edition of the remake. So I hope you didn't watch this video if you haven't played the game, but I would highly recommend you playing the game if you haven't done so, because there's a lot that I left out, but there's so much to your journey that you can experience yourself, and all the dialogues that you will encounter will probably be unique to your own playthrough, because I know I didn't find every single optional dialogue when I played, and then I had those moments where I unintentionally ended dialogues early, and it made it unique to me. So the Left Behind DLC is also a great addition to this game, but I won't be covering that today, as I wanted to mainly just focus on the main game and what made it special to me. And some things that have made it more special as time has gone on is learning some of the beauty of the game. When you start the game, you're playing as Sarah. The first moment that you take control of Joel, you're holding Sarah in your arms. The last moment of the game, you're holding Ellie in your arms, playing as Joel. The last time you play as Joel, you're holding Ellie in his arms, and then you end the game as Ellie. And it's just like that symmetry, that mirror image from the start to the end of the game is beautiful. I also think it's real interesting seeing how Joel and Ellie's personalities swap from the beginning to the end of the game. And then also just picking up on some references, and even the collectibles have their own lore to them. Like when you're in the sewer systems, Ish is a pretty interesting character, and you learn a little bit more about Ish as you even exit the sewers. So there's countless lore, countless cutscenes, supreme acting, and supreme sound design. The only critique that I could give this game is that the gameplay might not hook everyone. It is a little bit simple, but I'd have to say that's a positive, because it really lets you focus on the story instead of getting lost in the gameplay, and you get to take it slow and really have those optional conversations. I personally enjoyed every single weapon that was in the game. I don't feel like there was a useless weapon. The bow, the hunting rifle, the shotgun, the fully automatic rifle that you get at the very end of the game. All of those were excellent. Oh, and the flamethrower. Flamethrower is great for taking out the infected. And then you've got the pistols like the Shorty, the El Diablo, the revolver, and the M9 pistol. All of those I enjoy using. So, like I said, there's not a bad weapon. Bricks and bottles are fun to use. Molotovs. Smoke bombs even have their use. Nail bombs can be useful too. So there's nothing in the game that I feel like is completely useless. And that's something that I also enjoy. Well, thank you guys if you've made it through me rambling on about my favorite game. I am working on my final review for the HBO series of this game, but I have run into a little bit of troubles trying to get things set up, so I've got to order some things and work on my editing skills. But I hope to have that out soon, and I would really encourage you guys to go to my HBO review playlist and to comment your thoughts about each episode. I don't have any comments about episode 1, so I really would enjoy if you guys would comment and share your thoughts about the series there, because in my review, I want to include your guys' comments, and I absolutely love having dialogue and conversations with you guys. So, once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you hopefully soon.